Hello, welcome back to Radio 2. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and that you're ready to kick off another week's worth of radio lecturing and that you're actually listening to radio, okay? Our previous lesson, we spoke about generators and reactors, and that's what we'll be continuing with today. First thing I want to know from you is whether you think you're a generator or a reactor. Think about the promo that I asked you to create for me. Is that something that came easily to you? Was it difficult to put the content together? Did you work with someone? Was it easier when the two of you bounced ideas off each other to come up with a concept for it? What do you think? Do you think you are a generator or a reactor? And then in my previous lessons, so in lecture 15, what do you think? Do you think you are a generator or a reactor? And then in my previous lessons, so in lecture 15, I gave you some homework. And by far, it was not the most difficult homework that I've given you. I asked you to read chapter 2 in Beyond Powerful Radio from Valerie Giller from page 9 to 12. And then I asked you to listen to your top 3 radio stations in the drive times. So it didn't matter whether you listened to morning or afternoon drive, just one of the drives. I asked you to cite 3 examples for me and to list the personalities by name, indicating the day part, so whether it was morning or afternoon, and to let me know whether, in your opinion, the presenters are generators or reactors. So which are which and why, okay? I asked you to give me your supporting arguments so that I can have a look at it, so that we can speak about it. So please remember to send me those so that we can chat about it in the live class. So our class today is the second last part of voice and performance. So by now you should have a very good example of how to use your voice. We went through quite a number of different ways that you can work on your voice and work on your stance and work on the way that you feel to make sure that you have a strong voice. So it doesn't matter. And we said that you need to work on things like your storytelling and your delivery so that your actual voice does not really matter at the end of the day. So the focus today, again, is just on you should be able to describe the roles and the personalities of a generator and a reactor, and whether you yourself are a generator or a reactor, whether your friends are generators or reactors, okay? So we're just continuing looking at generators and reactors.
Against Durban, against Gauteng. Now, 2 of these 3 cities still do not have their pizza this afternoon, but there can only be one winner. He's on the line representing Cape Town in Stellenbosch. Dumisani, congratulations.
Yay.
Hey, man, did you think today when we said we're looking for somebody who's just wants a better afternoon that this is how it would turn out?
No, I had no idea. I thought it was going to just be thrown into one of those quiz pop questions.
Yeah, exactly. Don't you find that radio stations, and I'm sure I do this too, but do that a lot, where it's like, hey, man, wouldn't you just like to randomly give 5 minutes of your time to make content for somebody else? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the pub quiz is up next. Hey, by the way, what we need to do this afternoon is congratulate you on behalf of everybody at your workplace as well. I believe one of your colleagues, Luke, is helping you chow the pizza.
Yeah. And we're actually down to the pizza now. It's finished.
Lekker, man. Hey, how's Stellies, by the way? It's my old stomping ground. I really miss the place.
It's really cool. It's actually raining. It's raining today. Yeah, it's chilled. It's a chilled, lekker place.
Who do you think, by the way, Dumisani, out of the 2 cities, Levi in Durban and Michaela in Gauteng, came second and third?
I think Durban will come second.
Durban did not come second. Gauteng did. Here's Michaela.
Hey, it's Michaela from Eden Glen in Joburg. Thank you to 5FM and Debonair's for the pizza. And yeah, I'm not sharing with anybody.
Amazing. And in third place
Awesome.
this afternoon in Durban, it was indeed Levi.
Hey, the easy East Coast for the win, guys. So I'm about to jump onto the sports field quickly. Now me and the boys got a pizza to share. Drink some fans. Thank you so much, guys.
At the end of the day, pizza is the real winner. Dumisani, congratulations once again, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Have a lacquer afternoon. This will not be the last time that we do this. So if we left out your city today, you need to let Mad Money Mike know. Pizza races will become a thing on 5 Drive.
Can I get a hiya for the 5 Drive team?
Regular programming will convene next as we enter into the earliest pub quiz ever. Hold on.
From listening to that clip now, what would you say? Would you say that this presenter is a generator, or would you say that this presenter is a reactor, and why? So obviously there you could hear the feature, you can hear that it's about pizza and it's about people who can win pizza for the day. But as a listener, where do you think it's coming from? Is that the host? Is that the co-host? Would that make him a generator or a reactor? Okay, and again, I want you to know, I want you to think about why it is that you'd say so. Why do you say he's the one or the other? Okay, so I've asked you whether you think you are a generator or a reactor. So I'll wait to hear what you say. But when we start talking about them, I want you to think about yourself now as the listener. Okay, so not as someone studying radio and studying this at the moment, but as the actual listener. If you listen to a radio station, how would you determine whether those people that you are listening to now, how would you determine who of them are the host, which one of them is the host, and which one of them is the co-host? From what you know by now, who do you think is who and why? When it comes to you specifically also, how do you think your program manager should determine if you are a host or a co-host? Which one would work better for you specifically? And then thinking about your personality. When does your personality come out best? By setting up content, so by deciding what it is that you'd want to talk about and by bringing it alive, or do you work best by reacting to someone else who mentioned something, and then your personality comes alive by bringing out ideas of how this can work? So if someone brings up a topic, you jump in and you say, cool, this is how we'll do it. This is how we can do it. These are the different ways of doing it. Which one of those do you think you will be best at? So hosts are naturally generators. That is just how it works, with co-hosts who are natural reactors, okay? As I've mentioned before, a lot of presenters can be both. So it is possible for you to be both a reactor and a generator, but one role is almost always stronger than the other. So you might be able to do both, but it might be that you excel in one of the two, okay? So being cast in the correct role is extremely important. So you need to make sure that your program manager puts you in the right role. It can literally make or break your career, okay? There have been many examples of very successful co-hosts, someone who worked extremely well with the host on the show that they were on, and then that presenter got offered a show on his or her own. So they left the show that they were on, the successful show they were on, to go and create their own show, and then they failed. Some of them failed miserably. Why? Why did they fail? Most co-hosts are natural reactors, and they struggle with the mechanics of hosting a show, okay? So they get bogged down in the mechanics of hosting it versus their natural creative side that would normally have come out if they were only reacting to whatever it is that their previous host or the generator brought up. So why do that? Why leave a show, a very successful show where you were the co-host? So why do that? Why leave a very successful show where you were the co-host to become a host on your own show? Why do people do that? If you were to think about it, what pops up in your mind? It's a natural reaction, right? Everyone wants to be the star of their own show. And many co-hosts feel that the ultimate level of success is to host a show. That is just the way it happens. Everyone is like, oh man, the day I get given my own show is the day that I finally made it. That's a misconception. The roles of a host and a co-host are equally important in the eyes of the audience, okay? An audience member doesn't think that one person is more important than someone else. If they are, think about shows that you listen to where there are two presenters on. Do you think that the one presenter is more important than the other one? So I'm not asking whether you like the one more than the other, so whether you might find one a little bit annoying or just connect much better with the other one. I'm asking whether you think one is more important than the other. Most likely the answer should be no, okay, because we don't think that way. In fact, many co-hosts creatively drive a show's content. It's because of that co-host that the show is doing as well as it is. And that creativity is extremely needed on a show. However, yes, it does enhance your brand if you have a name on the show. But what normally happens when you have two hosts, or what happens when there are two people on a show, whether we normally know both their names, right? Even when it's a case of a breakfast show. I don't know about you, but I know who most of the people are on those shows because I listen to the shows quite frequently, because these shows are mature shows. So they're not in their growth phase anymore. They've gone through their introduction, through the growth phase. They are now in a mature phase. So I know who everyone is, and I know what everyone's role is on that specific show, okay? Even though I am aware that one person is the host and the rest make up co-hosts, I still wouldn't eliminate any one of them. I wouldn't remove anyone from that specific or from the show, because it would change the elements of the show or the dynamics of the show completely. If, however, you do find yourself in a situation where your name isn't mentioned at all, where only the host's name is mentioned, I would suggest looking for another show where you can be the main co-host, but stay as a co-host if that's what you are. If you are a reactor, stay in that type of a role, okay? Don't move over to the generator's role, because you have no idea whether you might be breaking a career that you have been working very hard to get where you are, okay? So if we look at it again in detail, so generator versus reactor. So again, generators can easily work alone or as part of a team. They can visualize original ideas, okay? They can see in their head where they want something to go. They have a strong, independent imagination, obviously really important. And then they are able to come up with many different types of topics, undaunted by a blank page. True generators are rare, okay, and they can be the life of the party. Sometimes very interesting things happen when generators walk into a room. That being said, creatives are also, reactors are also creative individuals. So both of these types of personalities are very creative. A reactive talent takes existing ideas and comes up with numerous ways to make them better or more workable. Reactors are definitely no less talented than generators, okay? So with regards to talent, there's no difference between the two, but a reactor has a different style to a generator. So that's where the difference comes in as well. A reactor alone can get very anxious when facing a blank page. However, the moment that a reactor comes into contact with a generator, they can instantly and very cleverly pick up on remarks, comments, or nuances, and they can be very funny. A reactor is normally the one who responds to just about any stimulus with an insightful or a witty remark. Reactors can have a lot of fun talking back to their TV sets or their radios. If you've listened to a talk show that seemed to have a slow start, but then picked up after the interview or the calls began, you were likely listening to a reactive talent, okay? The minute the host can react off of the callers or the interview guest, generating for them, the show comes alive immediately. Don't know if you remember this from the previous class, but I said that many comedians are reactors, which is interesting because you'd think they're all generators because they're standing up and doing a monologue in front of a live audience. But in reality, if you put those people in a studio or alone in a room without that live audience generating for them, they may be less colorful. Reactors work best with other people in the room to spark their creative energy. So both of these types of talents are very valuable and good, but the right casting here is key. As I've mentioned, someone can make or break your career if the right castings aren't made. Forcing a reactor to carry the show as a generator doesn't work. And on the other side of that, forcing a strong generator into an equal or subordinate partnership with another generative talent can lead to an almost painful on-air clash, okay? You can't put two generators together on a show. The trick is to be able to identify each person's specific strengths and then to encourage that person to develop those strengths. So putting two generators together as co-hosts or as a team can definitely be disastrous. Why? Because they tend to battle for the microphone. They seldom listen to each other, and they compete for attention. Have you ever heard that? Have you heard people do that on air? And you might have thought, sure, they maybe just need a little bit more training. It might not be the training that's the issue. It might just be that both of them are generators on a show together. So what does the show end up sounding like? It ends up sounding like two kids fighting at the dinner table. It's really hard to listen to for a long time. On the other side of that, putting two reactors together on the show won't be much better, okay? But why? Because they keep casting their net for ideas over and over again, okay? It's like they're grasping at straws the whole time. The process is dull, the process is boring. It can make the show weak, okay? Because they don't have anything strong to hold on to. So how do we tell the difference? I know I'm saying all these things, but how do we actually tell the difference between a generator and a reactor? At the end of the day, it's fairly simple. Generators have a lot of ideas and energy. They take huge risks and they worry about it later. They really do have moments of brilliance. They sit alone in a room and their minds just overflow with ideas. I know one generator who is extremely good with just sitting and coming up with massive loads of ideas and then sending people to see what can work, what can't work, etc. Okay, so Nick Hammond from 5FM is one of those. He's a really good example of a generator. And he has a team of reactors around him. Then who did I say was a very good example of a reactor? Do you remember I said Bongani Bingwa is a reactor, but he has he has multiple callers calling in and generating for him. Okay, so he reacts off of that. Again, though, you need to keep in mind that these aren't perfect people. They're still people. So it's not to say that every idea that a generator produces is a perfectly conceived show, but consistently, it's more that they are practically exploding with new material. If you're looking at a creative talent, if you're looking at a reactive talent, you will notice that they are very quick with a story or with a memory, very quick with an imitation or a line of any topic that you can give him or her, okay? But you need to give them that first push. You need to throw them a bone or give them a line or something to go on. So that suggestion, that good opening for them to run with. If you leave the reactor in the room alone with no external catalyst for the show, they're going to struggle, okay? They really are. They're going to be miserable. Reactors may do brilliant interviews or pick up on things pick things out of a newspaper that might be unique. But they need that little bit of initial stimulus to get going and to begin the process. But again, you probably have a reactor on air if they're dull until the news person shows up or until the calls begin. Generators are scarce. Most people are reactors. It's a little like being left or right-handed. One is no better than the other. If absolutely necessary, right-handed people can adapt to using their left hands and vice versa. You can definitely try to force people to improve in the area where they are weaker at the moment. But in most circumstances, it's best for the station just to take advantage of their natural inclinations. That's not to say that a program manager or a station manager will immediately know which one of the two you are when they hear you. So it might be a case of you finding out which one of the two you are and starting to work at yourself as a presenter from that angle, okay? Starting to prepare for that specific role to make yourself stronger in that case. You might think it takes a generator to host a morning show. That is not always the case, as I previously mentioned again. One reactor, Casey, found a cast of generators in his listening audience. Rita owned and operated a local beauty salon. She was also Casey's loyal fan and listener. Rita started calling in on a semi-regular basis to chat about hot movies and the going-ons around town. She was funny and charming and had unique views. So Rita became a regular on the show. The listeners started calling in wanting to meet Rita. She participated at station events and appearances. Next, Casey added another regular listener, a talkative cab driver. Then he found a local construction guy with fixer tips, who also happened to be a 28 years old, dating regularly, and happy to talk about his adventures. What happened here? Using interactive media, Casey continues to add appropriate players as they appear. He now has a winning show with lots of generators to show off his reactive talent. He literally assembled his own generator reactor team. If you're an on-air personality, it helps to know your own strengths and to know whether you are the one or the other. And if you're a manager, or if you're aiming to be a manager or a program manager, it's going to be your job to identify each person's specific strengths and then to encourage each person to develop those strengths. Once you know who your reactors and your generators are, you can get into the business of creating powerful radio. So that's the key to all of this. I spoke about the spin method in the previous lesson. So just briefly to recap. The reality is that creating content is far more difficult than reacting to content. So any method that can help us is good for us to learn. This is personality, okay? Listeners know when you're being authentic and when you're not. Keep in mind how important it is to have a personality, to have a life, because your life is what you bring to on air and is what you talk about. So you can be as articulate and well-spoken as you want, but without personality, longevity in radio is not for you. If we look at the I, putting the I in, it's important to pull yourself. It's important to put all of yourself into what it is that you're doing. You need to do it 100%, okay? You need to sound invested. You need to invest in those songs that you are playing, or rather that the listeners at home think that you are playing. Believability is key. Don't berate the station's music or programming. And the N for all natural, be an organic radio presenter. Always try to be the same person on air as you would be in real life when someone meets you, okay? Don't try to be someone fake on air. If we bring it all back together once again, to coach and develop talent effectively, it helps to identify the talent's strengths and natural abilities. Knowing the type of performers you are working with lets you guide them towards their maximum performance, okay? There are two classifications of talent, or personality types, as we also call them, and they are generators and reactors. The natural skill of a generator is that a generator can quickly work alone, that a generator can work alone just as quickly as they can as part of a team. Reactors are also creative. Reactors are also very creative and take existing ideas and come up with numerous ways to make them better or more workable. Mismatched combinations of generators and reactors have disastrous consequences, while electric connection can occur when with the audience when you have a balance of both of these elements. So again, what I want you to do for me for homework is, I'm sure by now you would have read chapter 2, but is to listen to 3 radio stations during the drive time. So whether it's mornings or afternoons, cite 3 examples and list their personalities by name and indicate the day part, okay? Determine which personalities are reactors, which are generators, and why. Why do you say so? Compile the information and supporting arguments into a Word document and send it to me for open discussions. Okay, so that's what you're going to do for me. Why do I keep hammering on this? Because it's super important that you start realizing the difference between the two, that you can start picking up the difference between the two, so that we can figure out which one you are, so that we can work on your strengths to make sure that, so that we can work on your strengths, okay, and make sure that we bring out the best in you. And that is the end of this lecture, okay? So with that, I say goodbye. So our next class, which is on Wednesday, will be a live class, okay? So Wednesday, 24 March at 12:30, we will be doing a live lesson, which will be purely activity-based, based on your understanding of generators and reactors, okay? I look forward to seeing you there and to hear what you have to say, whether you think you are a generator or a reactor. Until then, bye.